people of Iraq, the Shias and the Sunnis, will not accept the current situation.
In the Kurdish region these days, young people don't speak Arabic, they don't learn it in school. You have your own economy, your own services, you even pretty much control the borders. What is there still that ties the Kurdish region to Iraq?
Of course, Arabic is the official language in the country and in the region, and the Arabic language is studied here in the region. That is a continuation of the policies of the last 30 years. And just to correct your information, Arabic is being studied here in schools in Kurdistan. As far as the second part of your question is concerned, that is precisely the reality and the truth that we want to be considered, and we want people to be convinced of. Iraq is two main nationalities, Arabs and Kurds, and we have decided this on the basis of a voluntary union. So this is the fact and the truth. We want it to be recognized and accepted. The moment we are recognized and accepted, there will be no problem.
A few weeks ago we watched you lower the coffin of one of the Kurdish victims of Saddam Hussein's Anfal campaign into the ground, one of tens of thousands still in mass graves. How much has that affected the history of this region?
This is, of course, a deep wound. We will never forget that. I'm very proud of being one individual among the Kurdish people, because our people have had their suffering and pain, and they don't think about retaliation or revenge after all the tragedies that have happened to them. As far as I'm concerned, the remains of that martyr, I don't know if he was a man or she was a woman. Was it a child, a son, a boy or a girl? I had a very strange feeling, and probably this was the first time in my life I had that feeling. But I thought he was my brother, he was my son, she was my mother, she was my daughter. It was a strange feeling. For me, I'd never felt it before. It really touched me.
You've talked about training Syrian Kurds who have come from Syria, training them to go back in. What do you think is the effect of some of the regions in the Kurdish areas of Syria having fallen to opposition fighters? What are we looking at here? Is it a country that will hold together? What is the future of the Kurds in Syria, and how does that affect Kurds in the region?
Of course they are our brothers, but the situation for the Syrian Kurds is different to other areas. They were deprived of the basic right of citizenship. They did not have state identity. They were considered refugees or infiltrators. They were deprived of the basic rights of citizenship. So the training that's taken place is not for fighting. The training is just a precautionary measure. So the moment the situation collapses in Syria, once there is a vacuum there, to enable them to play a role, to make sure there are no transgressions against the Kurdish people. Certainly, we want to see a change in the Kurdish situation in Syria, but that is something for them to decide upon. It's their role, and we believe that they can play a positive role, and they have played a positive role, in order to build a new Syria that will be democratic and pluralistic. We believe it's important that they are part of it. It's their right, and for all the Syrian people to enjoy a better future, and for the Kurdish people to enjoy their rights in Syria.
You've talked about hosting a regional conference of Kurds here sometime this year. That would be an extraordinary step, possibly the most important, the biggest gathering of Kurds in the region. Do you feel, with everything going on in the region, the Arab Spring, the changes going through, are you on the verge of creating a more powerful Kurdish community across the borders?
The purpose behind the conference is for the Kurds to have a united statement. A statement that stresses peace and peaceful coexistence, and also attempts to solve our problems in a peaceful and democratic way. That's the purpose behind it.
You've been betrayed at some point, the Kurdish region as a whole, by pretty much everyone, by the Americans in 1991 when they did not immediately come to your aid, by Turkey, by the surrounding countries. Who do you trust? Who are your allies?
Of course the world has changed, but before anything else we believe in God and we believe in our people. If we are not there ourselves as a people, then even if others are ready to help us, we will not be able to achieve that.
Here in the Kurdish region, there are some concerns that the democracy that you were aiming for hasn't quite taken hold. Elections here, provincial elections, were to have been held, have been delayed. When will those take place, and how do you respond to criticisms that this is not a democratic region?
I was against the delay of the provincial elections. In fact, when Parliament, the government and the Independent Commission in Baghdad told us that for technical reasons they can't be held and had to be delayed, I accepted that. Otherwise, I am against that decision and I support holding provincial elections.
This region has had a tragic history on many levels, and part of that tragedy has been Kurds fighting Kurds inside the region. In the 1990s, the other major Kurdish faction appealed to Iran for help, and you appealed to the Iraqi government, to Saddam Hussein's forces, to help drive them out of Erbil. Is there anything about that part of the past that you regret?
First, in my capacity as President of the region, I am proud, and that has been one of the main aims in accepting this responsibility, in order to make sure that this internal Kurdish fighting will not happen again. We will do whatever we can in order to remove that, and I am proud to make sure it will never happen again. It was a very unfortunate thing, and we would not have wanted that to happen. In fact, we are not alone in suffering from such a thing. Other people have also suffered. This was a stage we passed through. It was very unfortunate and very sad. We hope we have put it behind us and it will never happen again. And I have no objection if the Kurdish people want to investigate and look into this fighting, how it happened and why and how it came about.
Do you feel there's a gap between what the younger generation want, what they demand in fact, and the older generation who have lived through all these tragedies? Some of the younger generation, for instance, believe the time is over for family members to be the heads of the National Security Council, for instance. Is there something in those concerns? Is there a gap between the young people and the older ones?
Of course, people have all the right to say what they believe in, and everybody is free, whichever way they think. But let them look at the results. Look at the stability and security of the Kurdistan region. The new generation, the old generation, whoever is a resident of the Kurdistan region. Are the people prosperous and happier with all the violence that's been inflicted upon the rest of Iraq? The Kurdistan region was kept free of such kinds of violence. What we have in terms of security and stability has been hard to achieve. It has not come without any efforts. These are the results of the working of certain people who have been successful in accomplishing their duties. These people have to be appreciated for what they've done. Of course, any change that's possible here in the region, but certainly we in the Kurdish regional government are making sure that we build a state of institutions, and institutions will be running this region. But in this respect, I would ask people to look at the results, to look at the outcome, and to look at the stability and security of the region, and not just throw words around.
You've been such an essential part of the history of not just the Kurdish region, but the Kurdish people regionally. How would you like your legacy to be seen?
As far as I'm concerned, I have a clear conscience, as I have done whatever I've been able to do for the sake of our people. From my childhood, I've done everything in order to succeed in freeing our people and liberating our land. The judgment will be left to the people.
And is the region ready for an independent Kurdistan?
It's a natural right for the people, but the question of when it will be ready and how it will be ready, that's a different question.
President Barzani, thank you so much for talking to Al Jazeera.
Thank you.